The fourth quarter was an interesting one. We had a pretty good summer through the first part, but September there was an aggressive sell-off. But once the fourth quarter and October rolled around, all those concerns were out the window, and it was back to the races. We had some hiccups along the way around Thanksgiving when the news of the Omicron variant popped up, and then again after the Federal Reserve had its meeting in the middle of December and indicated the possibility of rate hikes in 2022, had a short-term impact on the market. But again, things recovered fairly quickly, and we were setting new highs at the end of the year. So overall, just a very positive from an investor's perspective fourth quarter, and one that perhaps was a little surprising after the way that the third quarter wrapped up. 2021 turned out to be a very good year for the Amana Growth Fund. The fund for the third consecutive year provided a return in excess of 30%. We benefited from a number of sectors. Naturally, technology was very strong, and that helped, but also several of our pharmaceutical and healthcare investments did well, and some of our industrial positions. So it was a nice, diverse source of returns and sets us up well for 2022. There are some uncertainties, of course, but I think we have some pretty good diversification that should be able to weather any disruptions, I think, successfully, and still participate in the event that people decide to shrug off their various concerns and get back to feeling ebullient about the market outlook.
So I think, the fourth quarter ended up again being one of those quarters where the technology sector did really well. There have been signs of inflation. Initially, the feeling from the Fed was that it was a temporary thing, but I think now they're getting a little bit more afraid about this being more consistent. So they've already announced probably in 2022 that they are going to not only begin to taper, which means that they're going to pull back on the purchases of the bonds that they're doing, but at the same time, they're going to be raising interest rates. So turning over to the issue of supply chain that was consistent last year, I think that is one of the major drivers of price increases. It's been in the past that demand was so high that companies could hold off on passing price increases over to customers. Because of a lack of supply and the demand being high, you're seeing a lot more companies have negotiating room to be able to pass price increases onto the consumer. And that is what's driving inflation higher and higher.
The Gulf Cooperative Council, otherwise known as the GCC, represents 6 member states that form a collective council, which include the country of Saudi Arabia, Oman, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, and Kuwait. The governments of that region have demonstrated a high degree of fiscal support as well as vaccination levels. Saudi Arabia, which is the largest economy and represents 35 million persons, is projected to experience a substantially higher level of growth this coming year, with third quarter currently reporting GDP growth of about 7%, slightly higher than expectations of about 6.8%. This is a substantial improvement from the prior year when it was down 4.1%. While the Amana Participation Fund invests in what are deemed to be frontier and emerging markets, this particular region is in fact quite stable compared to other emerging markets, as we've observed in China, where you're seeing a tremendous dislocations caused by bankruptcies in the real estate sector. The GCC is most likely among all the emerging market and frontier economies is better positioned because of strong oil, favorable tourism, and investor flows. That's most likely going to continue to provide a positive stage for the Amana Participation Fund for the 2022 year period.
Performance data quoted herein represents past performance and is no guarantee of future results. Investment return and principal value of an investment will fluctuate so that an investor's shares, when redeemed, may be worth more or less than their original cost. Current performance may be significantly higher or lower than data quoted herein. Performance current to the most recent month end can be obtained by visiting amanafunds.com or by calling toll-free 1-800-728-8762. Please consider an investment's objectives, risks, charges, and expenses carefully before investing. To obtain this and other important information, which you should carefully consider before investing, about the Amana Funds in a free prospectus or summary prospectus, please visit amanafunds.com or call 1-800-728-8762.